My son said, "Dad, don't come for Christmas. We're only doing close family this year." When I saw their photos online, I noticed something. My house in the background. They'd thrown their family dinner in my living room. My name is Harold Pierce. I turned 71 in October. I spent my life fixing things that broke and saving what I could. I worked as a mechanic first, then I ran the small shop after my boss retired. I married once. My wife, Ellen, died 8 years ago. I kept the house because it is where we raised our boy and where I became a grandfather. The house is not big, but it is steady. It held us when we were happy. It held us when she was sick. It still held me now. I am not a perfect man, but I tried to be a fair one. I showed up. I drove at dawn for ball games and late-night fevers. I do not drink much, I do not shout, and I do not forget who opened their door to me. I believe family meant we chose each other every day. I was still believing that when the phone rang. My son started with a laugh that did not sound like him. It sounded careful. "Dad, don't come for Christmas. We're only doing close family this year." I stood by the sink, hand on the edge of the counter. I had a dish towel in my palm. "Close family?" I asked. I wanted to give him a door to walk back through. "You know what I mean," he said. "It's just easier this way. The kids have schedules, and we do not want a lot of moving parts." I looked at the calendar on the wall. I had circled the day. I had written the grandkids' names in the square. I kept my voice calm. If I am not close, what am I? He did not answer that. He moved on. "We will drop gifts later. You can have a quiet day. It's better for everyone." There was a sound in the background. Plates. A voice I knew too well saying, "Just tell him." I pictured my son's face when he was 5. He used to bring me screws that rolled off the workbench. He would pinch them between his fingers, proud to be useful. I tried to find that boy as I listened to this man. "Is this about the talk last month?" I asked. "When I asked you not to raise your voice at your mother's table?" I knew the answer, but I wanted to hear him say it, if he would. He sighed. "Dad, please. Do not make this a thing. We're trying to keep peace." "By cutting me out," I said. My words were simple. They felt heavy anyway. "Let's not do this," he said, and the line clicked. It went quiet. The kind of quiet that follows a door closed in your face. I stood there with the towel, looking at the calendar. If I had pushed right then, I would have said something I could not take back. I let the towel fall on the counter. I felt something settle inside me. It was not rage. It was a kind of clear air. He thought the call ended it. He thought he had the power. I made coffee and sat at the table. My hands shook a little as I poured. I opened my laptop and signed into the family page. I do not check it much. I prefer voices to screens. But today, I needed to see where I stood. The first photo stopped me cold. My granddaughter smiled in a dress with reindeer on it. Behind her was my mantle. I knew it by the notch in the wood. I had made that shelf from a plank I sanded on the porch, a summer before Ellen got sick. The blue bowl with the pine cones sat in the same place it always sat. Next to it, the small brass clock that ticks too fast. I clicked to the next photo. My grandson sat in my armchair with a red Santa hat. He held a plate of cookies. I bought that chair after Ellen's last treatment when she could not sleep in the bed. I slept in it for months. The stitched seam on the right arm had a little pull. I saw it in the picture. I felt it under my hand like it was yesterday. Caption after caption talked about our cozy family night. Some shots showed the tree in the corner by the window that looks out to the maple. I could see the reflection of the glass door. I could see the outline of my old coat on the hook. They had told me not to come. They had said close family. They had gathered in my living room without me. I thought about the word family. I thought about the years I worked holidays to pay for their holidays, coming home late, grease in the lines of my hands. I thought about my wife's voice saying, "You hold steady, Harry. You show them how to be." A small doubt tried to speak. Maybe it was a mix-up. Maybe they were stopping by to pick up the tree stand. But the pictures were clear. Dinner, gifts, laughter, my mantle in every frame. I clicked print. I printed 5 photos, the worst of them, and the one where the baby reached for an ornament that used to belong to Ellen. The printer made a dull sound. The pages slid out warm. I set them in a neat line on the table. I had to see it with my own eyes, not just on a screen. I reached for my keys. The coffee sat untouched. I put the printed photos in a folder and set it by the salt shaker like I was saving a seat for the truth. I took my coat from the hook and headed for the door. It was already dark when I reached the street. I turned off my lights a house early and rolled in slow. Their cars were lined up tight in my driveway. The porch light was on. My window glowed like it used to when we had company on Christmas Eve. I parked across the street and killed the engine. I sat and watched. I'm not proud of that, but I needed to see. Each window told a piece. In the front room, the tree stood with my old angel on top. In the kitchen, someone passed a bowl. I saw the edge of my casserole dish, the white one with a chip on the lip. Laughter came through the glass, muffled and warm. I thought of walking up and knocking. I thought of saying, "You forgot someone." I imagined the look on my grandson's face, torn between glad and scared. I imagined my daughter-in-law's tight smile. Then I pictured a fight on the porch, sharp words in front of children. I breathed slow and asked myself what I wanted. Not a scene, not a tear. I wanted respect returned, or I wanted distance that did not bleed. I glanced at the porch box where I keep the spare key. It is a metal box with a sliding lid under the second step. I built it after locking myself out one winter. It has always held one key, taped in blue tape. I knew the way my hand has to angle to reach it. I knew the rough edge inside. I crossed the street like I was out for air and went to the step. I bent like I was tying my shoe and slid my fingers along the cold. The lid moved back. The space was empty. My throat went tight. That key was not a gift. It was a safety net. If they had needed to get in, they could have called. They did not call. They took. I stood up and looked at my window. My armchair sat in its place. A kid jumped on the rug. The angel tilted a little to the left. The baby clapped her hands and someone laughed hard. I went back to the car and sat again. My hands were steady now. My mind felt like a clean table. I thought about Ellen's last Christmas and the way we wrapped presents together, slow and neat. I remembered her saying to me, "You get to decide who you are when people are not kind." I let that guide me. The front door opened. My son stepped out with a trash bag. He saw my car. He did not wave. He came down the walk, eyes small, mouth set, and he started toward the curb. He stopped at my window and tapped. I rolled it down halfway. The cold came in sharp. He held the trash bag tight, like a shield. Bits of paper showed through the plastic, red and green. A ribbon. "House looks lively," I said. My voice was even. I could hear my own breath. He glanced over his shoulder. "Dad, we're keeping it simple." He said it like it was a line he had practiced. His face looked older than it should have looked. He had a good man somewhere in him. I could not see him tonight. "Simple is good," I said. "You took the key from the porch box." He blinked. We had to get in. The kids wanted the tree. "We were going to tell you, you told me not to come," I said. That was clear. He looked down at the bag, then up at me. He wanted me to be the one who snapped. He wanted a scene he could point to later. "Dad, do not make this ugly." "It is already ugly," I said. I kept my words short so I would not start to shout. My chest hurt. I kept my hands flat on the wheel. "You had a choice. You chose to use my house and close me out of it." He shifted his weight. "We are family." Your door is open. My door opens when I open it, I said. I saw his jaw work. I saw his eyes flick toward the window with the tree. He wanted me to beg. He wanted me to back down and then thank him next week for letting me come by for leftovers. We are doing what works for us, he said. Good, I said. Then keep it simple. Enjoy your night. He stared at me like he did not understand why I was not fighting. I rolled the window up another inch. Merry Christmas, I said. It came out plain and hard. He stood there. I could see my face reflected in the glass and his face over my shoulder. I put the car in drive. He moved back a step. As I pulled away, I felt my heart go quiet. I saw my house in the mirror, bright and warm without me. It was the clearest picture I had ever had of where I stood. He thought I was leaving because he had won. He thought I had nothing to do but swallow it and go home. That night, I did not sleep much. I sat at the kitchen table with the folder of printed photos beside the coffee cup I never finished. The house was silent. The sting in my chest faded into something colder. I realized that I had spent too long giving chances to people who counted on me never drawing a line. They mistook patience for weakness. By the time the sun came up, I knew exactly what I would do. I did not write it down. I did not need to. When I finally stood, the decision felt clean, simple as turning a wrench. They had taken my key and my place. I will take everything back soon. I will take something that was mine all along. You will not expect how hard my revenge is going to be. But before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. Morning came gray and thin. I ate toast I could not taste and moved through the house slow, like I was checking a car after a long trip. I set the printed photos in a neat stack on the table. I took the small brass clock from the counter and wound it twice. The tick felt steady again. Then I went to the bedroom closet and pulled down the fireproof box. It was heavy on my lap. I set it on the bed and turned the dial. I had used this box to save what mattered: marriage papers, the deed, a few old photos Ellen loved. I opened it and breathed once, slow. My hands did not shake now. On top lay the envelope with the house papers. Beneath it were our wedding rings from the day we had them resized, wrapped in tissue. I touched the tissue and felt the soft give. I slid the envelope out and put it aside. I was not hunting for words today. I was hunting for proof I had built a life and kept it whole. Under the papers was a small tin that used to hold mints. Inside were spare keys, 3 of them, dull and familiar, each with a bit of blue tape around the heads. I had made them years ago after I locked us out in winter. One went to the porch box. One stayed in this tin. One I had given to my son when his wife lost hers. I remembered pressing it into his palm in my driveway. He had smiled and said, "We'll bring it back." He never did. I sat there and listened to the clock ticking in the kitchen. I thought about how easy it had been for them to call and ask, to say, "Dad, can we bring the kids by? Can we sit by the tree?" I would have opened the door. I would have set the table. Instead, they took the key from the porch box like it was theirs, and they took my chair, my mantle, my quiet. I put one spare key in my front pocket. I put the second in my coat. I left the third in the tin. I closed the box and put it back where it lived. It hit the shelf with a dull, sure sound. The phone buzzed on the nightstand. A message from my daughter-in-law lit the screen. "We'll swing by tomorrow to leave gifts on the porch. No need to come out. We will be quick." Quick, like I was a problem to be worked around. Quick, like I was a stranger. I stared at the message and felt something in me harden, not into anger, but into purpose. I typed one line. "Do not come by without me here." 3 dots blinked, stopped, blinked again. Then nothing. Silence has weight when someone chooses it. I stood and zipped my coat. I slid the photos into the folder next to my keys. The blue bowl on the mantel caught the light. A pine cone rolled and settled with a small sound. I looked at that bowl and decided I was done being the only one who remembered who bought it, who dusted it, who kept it full. I locked my door behind me and headed out. I had what I needed. I drove to the bank on Maple Street. I had been going there since the teller knew Ellen by name. The lobby smelled like coffee and floor polish. It was warm inside, and that felt wrong in a small way. My hands were cold, but my mind was clear. "Morning, Mr. Pierce," the young man at the desk said. His name tag read Evan. He was new. He did not remember the old days. That was fine. I was not here for a long talk. "I need to check on my accounts," I said, "and I need to make a few changes." My voice came out firm. Not loud, just firm. We sat at his desk. He clicked a lot. I watched the small screen reflect in his glasses. "Everything looks good," he said. "What changes?" "I want paper statements again," I said. "No more emails." Emails go to a family account my son once helped set up. That felt messy now. "And I want to turn off the auto payments to the guest internet at the house. It is not for guests anymore." He looked unsure. "We can do that." "Good," I said. "And print me a recent bank statement for the utility auto pays. In my name." All of them. I was not gathering ammo to wave in his face. I was getting my hands back on my own handles. Simple, clean. He nodded and printed. The printer hummed and fed out pages. He straightened them like he was trying to please a teacher. I slid the stack into my folder next to the photos. Paper has a way of anchoring you when people try to blow you off your mark. As he finished, my phone rang. My son. I let it ring once in my pocket, then answered. "Dad," he said, "we will bring the kids over after lunch today. We will leave the gifts. We do not want this to be weird. It is already weird," I said. "You made it weird." A pause. "We are trying to do what works. Can you not just let this year be, and we talk after?" "You used my house without me," I said. "We will talk, yes. At my table, today." His voice sharpened. "Do not start with rules." "I am not starting," I said. "You did." I kept my tone level. "Come by at noon, we will speak." Then I hung up before he could press the old buttons. Evan handed me the last page. "Anything else?" "One more thing," I said. I took the little brass key to my safe deposit box from my chain and set it on the desk. "I want to visit the box." He led me to the small room. The metal drawer slid out with a hollow sound. Inside sat the envelope with Ellen's handwriting on it, neat and curved. Christmas recipes. A photo of our first tree. I did not take them. I just looked and felt my spine straighten. When I walked back through the lobby, I felt taller somehow. Not loud, not grand, just like a man who had remembered his own weight. Noon was coming. I did not want long words or big lectures. I wanted someone to look me in the eye and say I was not crazy. I drove 2 blocks over to a small office above the pharmacy. The sign still said Hollis and Dunn. Mr. Hollis had retired last year, but his daughter May kept the place running. She had sat at our dinner table when she was a teen. She had eaten my lasagna and called Ellen Auntie without being asked. She opened the door and scanned my face. "Harry," she said, "you all right?" "I will be," I said. I set the folder on her desk. I slid out the photos and the printed bank pages. "I got told I am not close family this year." Then I saw this. I pointed at my mantle in the background of the photos. They took the porch key. They filled my living room. Without me. She looked at each picture. Her mouth tightened. "That is rough," she said. She did not rush. She did not try to soften it. I liked that. "I am not here to drag them through anything," I said. "I want to be clear, and I want to be done with surprises. I want to say it plain and say it once." May leaned back. "Then say it plain," she said. "What do you want?" "I want my house respected," I said. "I want them to understand that if they shut me out, they do not get to use me. I want them to stop using words like for you when they mean for them. And I want my grandkids to see an adult set a boundary without shouting." May nodded. She pulled a single sheet from a drawer. "Write it," she said. "Write it like you talk. 1 page. No frills." So I wrote. I wrote that no one was to enter my home without me there. I wrote that tonight's dinner was over. I wrote that I would be at my own table at noon, and anyone who wanted to speak with me could speak then, quietly, and in front of their children. I signed my name. The pen felt heavy in my hand. When I finished, I slid the page to her. She read it and nodded. "Good," she said. "You are not being cruel. You are being clear." She tapped the photos. "You take these with you. You do not need a witness. You need your voice and your door." As I stood to go, my phone buzzed. A group text lit up from my daughter-in-law to the family page. Reminder: we're keeping things small this year. Please respect our space. Our space. I felt a small, hard smile find its way to my face. I looked at May. "I am done being small," I said. She put a hand on my arm. "Go home, Harry," she said. "Open your door. Let them show you who they are." I walked out with the single page on top of my folder. It was not a threat. It was a line, and I would draw it. I called a locksmith on the way home. He met me at the curb in a white van with no logo. He was younger than my son, with a ring in his eyebrow and grease under his nails. He shook my hand the way men who work with their hands do, firm, quick, without a lot of talk. "Front and back," I said. "I want them new." "You got keys for the old ones?" he asked. I held up the spare from my pocket. "I do." We went up the walk together. I looked at the porch step where the metal box hid. I slid the lid back again out of habit. Empty, the way it had been last night. The cold air bit at my knuckles. The locksmith watched me and said nothing. He put his tools down and started on the front door. Metal clicked. He worked like I used to work on a stubborn belt. Patient, precise, no grand gestures. I liked that about him. He popped the old cylinder free and set it on the rail. "Back door next," he said. We walked through the kitchen. The brass clock on the counter ticked. The blue bowl sat steady. I rested my hand on the back of my armchair as I passed, like I was greeting an old friend. At the back door, he did the same work. The old lock came out. The new one slid in. He tested it twice and handed me 2 keys with a small tag. "Keep one on you," he said. "Hide one where only you can reach it. Don't tell anyone. Don't show anyone. You want more copies?" "2 is enough," I said, "for now." As he packed up, a car slowed in front of my house. My son's sedan. He idled by the curb. He saw the van. He saw me on the porch. He did not wave. He rolled on and parked a few houses down, like he had not been looking. The locksmith handed me the old lock pieces in a plastic bag. "You want these?" "Yes," I said. He nodded and walked to his van. The engine started. The van pulled away. The street went quiet again. I stood with the new keys in my palm. They were cool and certain. I put one on my chain and the other in my coat. Then I looked at the porch box under the step. I slid the lid closed. I would not use it again. Across the street, my son got out of the car. He looked at the house. He looked at me. I opened the front door and stepped inside. The door clicked shut behind me. The lock turned like it had been waiting for my hand. I opened the door at noon. The cold followed them in. My son walked first, shoulders up like he was carrying a reason. His wife came behind him with a smile that did not reach her eyes. The kids trailed, unsure. I had set the table with 4 glasses of water and nothing else. The blue bowl sat where it always sat. The brass clock ticked on the counter, steady and small. "Sit," I said. "We will talk here." My son glanced around like he expected witnesses. He kept his coat on. His wife did too. The girl climbed into a chair and watched my face. The boy kept touching the edge of the table with one finger, the way he does when he is nervous. I put the folder down. I slid the printed photos out and spread them face down in a row. "You told me not to come," I said. "Then you came here without me." It was for you, my daughter-in-law said. We wanted to make it nice. For me, I said, would have been an invitation. My son blew out a breath. Dad, can we not pick a fight? The kids. This is not a fight, I said. This is a line. I flipped the first photo. My mantle, my blue bowl, my granddaughter's smile. I flipped the next. My chair, my clock, the next, the tree, the coat hook. The room changed temperature without the heat moving. My son's jaw shifted. His wife looked at the door. You used the porch key, I said, calm. You took it without asking. You staged a close family dinner that cut me out and used my house to do it. Silence sat heavy then. No one interrupted the tick of the small clock. I slid my hand into my coat and set 2 new keys on the table. I changed the locks this morning, I said. No more porch box. No more letting yourselves in. If you want to be in my life, ask. If you want my house, you stand in front of me and you ask. And you hear me if I say no. My son stared at the keys, then at me. He opened his mouth and closed it. The kids looked at him, waiting for a cue that did not come. We're family, he said at last, like it proved something. Family does not do what you did, I said. Not in this house. I lifted the top sheet of paper, 1 page, my words, simple. I did not hand it over. I let them see the title in my handwriting, What Happens Today. This is my house, I said. Tonight's dinner is over. My son's eyes went hard. You can't do this, he said. Watch me, I said. He reached for the paper. I put my hand on it and kept it where it was. My daughter-in-law's voice was already moving into a story. We cleaned. We set up the tree. We were honoring Ellen. Do not use her name to excuse you, I said. My voice stayed low. I knew her. You knew her smile. The girl lifted her eyes at the sound of her grandmother's name. The boy stopped tapping and held his breath. My son pressed forward with the old move. You're making this harder than it has to be. You made it harder when you left me outside, I said, and when you told me I was not close. His wife leaned in, tone sweet. We were trying to keep the kids on schedule. You get tired, the noise. I get to choose my tired, I said. You do not. He looked at the photos like they were traps. This is ridiculous, he said. It was one night. It was a choice, I said. I pushed the photos toward him with 2 fingers. Tell me you would have done this to your mother. Tell me that to my face he would not. He stared at the table. His wife looked at the ceiling and blinked fast like the light hurt her. He tried a new angle. Dad, we talked about keys. You always said the house is home. My home, I said. My door. The boy whispered, not to anyone. Are we in trouble? I turned to him. No, I said. You are not in trouble. Adults are talking. I shifted my eyes back to his parents. Adults, hear me. My son stood. His chair scraped the floor. We are leaving, he said. We do not have to take this. You are leaving when I am done, I said. You came here to talk. We are going to talk. He sat back down. He did not like that his body obeyed my voice. He never did. I slid the single page from under my palm and placed it on the wood between us. I did not read it yet. I let it lie there, simple and white. My daughter-in-law tried one last softness. We wanted to bring the ornaments out, she said, for tradition. I looked at the tree, at the angel that always leans left, at the red glass heart Ellen liked most. No, I said, not this year. The house felt like a held breath. I stood and lifted the page. Listen, I said. I read my words aloud. I kept them short and plain. I did not rush. I did not shout. I said that my home was not a place you used while you cut me out. I said that no one entered without me there. I said that if anyone tried, the door would not open. I said that respect was required, or nothing was. My voice sounded older than I felt. It filled the room and came back to me like it had always lived there. I finished and set the page down. The girl traced the corner with one finger. The boy watched her hand, like he was afraid to touch something that might burn. My son snorted and reached for the page. I lifted it out of his reach and walked to the front door. I opened the junk drawer, took out a roll of tape, and tore a strip with my teeth. The sound cut the room. Rip. I taped the page at eye level on the inside of the door. The strip smoothed under my palm. "Childish," my daughter-in-law said. "Clear," I said. She shifted in her coat and made her voice soft again. "We were trying to create warmth." "You took warmth that did not belong to you," I said. "You did not ask who paid for it." My son's hands curled on the table. "So what? You think this makes you right?" "I know it makes me honest," I said. He pushed back from the table again, half standing. "We are not doing this with the kids here." "You brought them," I said. "You brought them into my living room when you told me to stay out of it. They will see how adults fix what adults break." He had his mother's temper. He had my face. He wanted to win even when winning made him small. I turned from the door and walked to the tree. The red glass heart caught the light. I lifted the lid on the storage box and took out the smaller box inside, the one with the soft tissue paper and Ellen's handwriting on a note inside the lid. I opened it. The scent was dust and pine. Or maybe it was memory. Behind me, something in my son's voice cracked. "What are you doing?" I slid my hands into the tissue and touched the first ornament. I took the angel off the tree, the lean little thing that never sat straight. I laid her in the tissue. I took the red glass heart Ellen loved and put it next to the angel. My granddaughter watched every movement like it was a story she would remember. My daughter-in-law stood, eyes hard and bright. She reached for the box. I angled it away. "Careful," I said. "These belong to someone who knew how to be kind." "That is not fair," she said. "We are here. We are trying. Trying is not doing," I said. "You had a key. You had my phone number. You had a choice." I bent, picked up the small wooden train Ellen carved the year our boy turned 6. I held it in my palm. It was worn smooth from hands. My granddaughter stood and came closer. Her eyes were wide and wet. "Grandpa," she said, "can I hold it?" "Yes," I said. I placed the train in her hands. "You keep it when you are kind." That is the measure. My daughter-in-law moved fast then. Her hand shot toward the box. I closed the lid. The sound was not loud, but it was final. She jerked her hand back and flushed. "Do not snatch in my house," I said. My son stepped closer, heat rising off him. "You are punishing us in front of our kids." "You punished yourselves," I said. "You built this." "I am showing the edges." He glanced at the door where the page hung. He looked back at the tree, half-dressed now. The room looked bare in a way that showed the bone of it. He hated that. He liked a show. He liked noise. He did not know what to do with simple. "Say what you want," I said, "and then go." He swallowed. "I want you to stop acting like you own everything." "I own my decisions," I said. "I own my house. I own what I do with my love." He held my eyes a long time. The kids stood between us, quiet. The clock ticked. The blue bowl sat still. "Fine," he said at last. "We are done here." "For today," I said. "Respect knocks. You can try again." He turned and went to the door. He paused when he saw the page. He read it all the way through, mouth tight, eyes moving. He opened the door and stepped out into the cold. His wife followed without looking at me. The kids hovered. The girl pressed the small train into her coat pocket and then took it out again and looked at me like she was asking permission. I nodded. They crossed the porch. The door swung back on its hinges. I caught it. I stood in the doorway, the box of ornaments under my arm. The cold reached in for my ankles. The lock waited for my hand. They hesitated on the porch like the cold might push them back. My son put his hand on the frame and leaned in, jaw tight. "So you're throwing out your own family?" "I'm throwing out cruelty," I said. "Family can come back when it acts like family." He laughed once, sharp, like breaking glass. "You always think you're righteous, don't you?" "I think I know the difference between a door you open and a door you force," I said. My daughter-in-law tried the soft tone again. "We made memories for the children." "You can't take that away." "You made a lesson," I said. "They will remember what using someone looks like." She stepped closer, voice sugar, eyes not. "You're old, Harry." "You get confused." "We help. I am old," I said. "I am not confused." I pointed to the page taped at eye level. "Read." She did not. She stared at me like I was a slow problem. My son tried to look past me, to measure what else to grab from inside. His eyes landed on the blue bowl. He never cared for it. He cared that I did. "You owe us," he said. "After everything we did for you this month. Shopping, planning, keeping the kids out of your hair. You kept them out of my house," I said, "with my lights on and my chair warm." The girl shifted her weight. The boy looked at his shoes. I hated that he stood between lies and truth this young. I hated that his father made it look like there were two sides when there was only one decent way to act. "We're done," my son said. "We'll be in touch when you've calmed down." "I am calm," I said. "You come back with respect. Or you don't come back." He scoffed. "You can't mean that." I held up the new key on my chain. It caught the pale light, cold and sure. "This is what meaning looks like." He shook his head and turned away. His wife shot me a look that could peel paint. "You'll die alone, you stubborn man." "I already did once," I said. And I kept going. They clattered down the steps. The door was still open behind me. The brass clock ticked on the counter, steady as breathing. I stood at the threshold and watched their backs get small. When I closed the door, the lock turned smooth under my hand. The click echoed in the quiet. It sounded like choosing. Morning came clear and cold. I made eggs and ate at the table with the folder still sitting there like a witness. I ran a finger over the edges of the photos. I was not collecting proof anymore. I was remembering who I was in this house. My phone lit with messages from my son, stacked and sour. "We need to use the house for New Year's. Don't be dramatic. You made this bigger than it is." The last one said, "You'll regret this." I set the phone face down. I had spent too many years training myself to be grateful for crumbs. I was not hungry like that anymore. I took a roll of tape and a pen from the drawer. I wrote one more line on a small card and taped it under the page on the door. Knock. Wait. Be kind. Not law, not threat. Instructions a decent person could follow. I changed the Wi-Fi password because that was simple. I stacked 2 boxes by the tree for the kids. One for later, one for when they came with their parents and used gentle voices. The red glass heart stayed in the box with Ellen's note. I set the blue bowl on the table where the light hit it. The brass clock ticked through it all. After lunch, I walked to the post office with 2 plain envelopes, one to my son, one to his wife. Each held a copy of the 1-page note I had read at the table, and a small photo of my mantle from the night they took their pictures. A reminder, not a fight. On the way home, my neighbor Mr. Keene waved me over. He is a widower like me. He saw the van yesterday. "New locks?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "About time," he said, not unkind. "You okay?" I will be, I said. The words felt true. Back at my door, the wind had tugged the bottom of the taped page. I smoothed it with my palm. My son's last voicemail waited. I listened once. The anger in it was not new. It had only learned new words. You're ungrateful. You forget who does the work. You make us look bad. He said us like it was a shield. He said work like love was a ledger. I deleted the message. A small thing, but it felt like sweeping grit from a clean floor. The house sat around me, warm where it should be, quiet where it needed to be. The kids' gifts waited under the table, far from anyone who might grab them and call it giving. A car slowed outside. The same sedan. I let the bell wind down 3 chimes and die before I stood. I did not rush to the door. This time I let them knock. They did not bring the kids. That told me what kind of talk they intended. My son had 2 men with him, big shoulders under cheap jackets. His wife stood a step back, hands in her coat, jaw set like a dare. Their eyes landed on the small card under the page. Knock. Wait. Be kind. They had done 1 of 3. My son pounded again. Open the door, Dad. Speak from there, I said. I kept my voice even. He glanced at his men like he had something to prove. One of them smirked. We just want to talk, old man. Talk, I said. You're going to let us in, my son said. We're going to get some of our things. The ornament boxes, the train, the kids' stockings. The train is with someone who earns it, I said. There are no things of yours in here. My daughter-in-law snapped. You are being abusive. You took my key, I said. You filled my living room while telling me to stay out. Call it what it is. The bigger man stepped to the side like he was testing the door. The lock gave a soft creak and held. He tried the handle. It did not move. He smiled at my son, small and mean. Do not touch my door again, I said. My voice came out low and flat. Old tools know their work. My son raised his voice to the street. Neighbors will hear, he said, like noise was his friend. They'll see how you treat your family. Good, I said. Let them see. The smaller man muttered. He's got nothing. He jostled the handle again. The lock stayed steady. The brass clock ticked, louder now that the hallway was quiet. I lifted my phone. Leave, I said, or I call for help. My daughter-in-law laughed. Call. Tell them you locked out your own son. I remembered her hand shooting for Ellen's ornaments. I remembered her telling me I was confused. Like cruelty could be a kindness if you said it sweet. Leave, I said again. Across the street, Mr. Keene stepped out on his porch with his hands in his pockets. He stood still and looked at them. Another door opened 2 houses down. People were watching. My son hated witnesses he did not choose. He shoved the bigger man's shoulder, turning them away in a burst of false pride. We're going, he said, loud, for the block. We don't need this. He pointed at the page on my door. This isn't done. It is for today, I said. They walked to the car. Before the door shut, I heard my daughter-in-law spit a word I will not print. It landed light and ugly on a cold day. The sedan pulled away too fast. The street swallowed the sound. I stood in the quiet and let my hand rest on the door. The wood was warm from inside, cool from out. It felt like a truthful thing. I cooked that night because the house asked for good smells. Pot roast in a Dutch oven. Carrots. Onions. I set 2 extra plates and called Mr. Keene. Bring your grandson, I said. We'll eat together. They came with a small pie and big eyes. The boy looked at the tree and the gap where the angel had been. Did it fall? He asked. No, I said. She's resting. We ate slow. We talked about small things. School. A basketball game. The boy liked the brass clock and kept asking if I wound it by hand. I do, I said. Some things do not keep time unless you care for them. After dinner, I pulled the ornament box toward me and opened it. I took out one piece only, the red glass heart. I held it up. The light caught a thin crack that ran through the middle like a healed cut. Ellen liked this one best, I said. Saying her name made the room feel gentle. It also tugged at the part of me that would always miss her, no matter how many locks I changed. Mr. Keene looked at me the way men look when they know what lonely feels like. He did not make it tidy with talk. I stood, walked to the tree, and hung the heart on a low branch. It swayed and settled. The boy clapped once, soft. The brass clock answered with a single tick I felt in my chest. When they left, the house grew quiet in a right way. I washed the dishes and set them in the rack. I put the second plate back in the cupboard, but I left a third by the sink to remind myself that I could make room when people came with good hands. I sat in my armchair and looked around. I thought about my son's face when he realized the door no longer obeyed him. I thought about my granddaughter holding the wooden train like it might teach her something gentle. I hoped it would. I will not pretend it did not ache. It did. Losing the idea of someone hurts like losing a person. But the ache came with a clear breath I had not taken in years. I was alone, but not abandoned. I was old, but not finished. I had done the decent thing, even if it did not look soft. I turned off the lamp. The tree glowed quiet. The heart hung steady. The door stayed locked until respect knocked. And that, I decided, was the best I could do. When the people you love mistake your patience for weakness, do you give them another chance? Or do you give yourself one? Share your thoughts in the comments.
My grandpa's words really happened. I believe him. If you want more true tales stories like this, hit subscribe.